recording. Then we're recording, and we're about to go live. And we will be live in just a second. So again, this is the bonus content for the YouTube viewers. And here we are, we're live. Welcome aboard, Shinno. How are you, mate?
Oh, I'm very good, mate. How are you this evening?
Very good. A little bit concerned about what I'm about to taste, but as we take this walk down Beery Lane or Memory Lane, or
yeah, we've got a bit nostalgic lately, haven't we? I think off the back of our Bush Chook episode, and
yes,
obviously the talk around my
your brewing heritage,
relationship with the brewing heritage and whatnot. So yeah, it'll be pretty interesting. But nonetheless, mate, we'll be doing it together. So if I'm going down, you're coming down with me.
It sounds like a plan. Now, we have multiple cans, so I'm just wondering, how are we going to choose what to drink first, or?
Well, I was thinking, I think I think we should go by our earliest memory.
Okay.
All right. So I think that's probably the only way to do it. So I've sort of put mine in a little bit of a timeline.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I only bought two because I backed out a bit, but let's run your timeline and then we'll have a look. So what have you got?
Okay. Well, I've picked three now. I'm not going to drink all three, but I've got Carlton Draft in the bottle.
So basically Crown Lager in a less fancy bottle.
Well, funny we should say that because
you've got the Crownie.
I'm also going to do the direct comparison.
Oh, okay. Now this could solve an argument. Yes.
Yes. So, but wedged in between the two, I've got Miller's Genuine Draft, which was probably almost deemed as an exotic overseas beer. Although I suppose that two of my three were probably the deemed craft beers of the late 80s, early 90s.
And that little bit fancy. And I do remember the first time I saw somebody drinking a Corona with a lemon in it. And I thought, oh, geez, this is all a bit much. What's wrong with straight up export? Well, I've gone a little bit of a Victorian theme, as you have. And the old Visitors beer, as it's now known, Vic Bitter, because you can get it talking, you can get it walking, you can get it.
And a matter of fact, you've got it now.
I've got it now. So that was, again, that's probably early memory, 17, 18, because once again, the thing about drinking VB was that not everyone liked it. Vomit beer. Welcome, you are 100%.
I was going to say, good evening to both Felix and Brian.
Brian, yes. So we're the old VB, and then later on, and I could not get what I wanted for this, and we'll have a bit of a chat about that later as we talk through the subject. But you must remember Hahn Ice beer.
Yeah,
right.
I do.
So I think that came out of that. Go on.
I was going to say there was a number of beers which, like you, as you mentioned before the show, that I was looking for, and my heart, I must say, my heart did sink a little bit. Not that I would go back and probably buy them, but but part of the nostalgia behind part of your history, I suppose, of drinking as a young man, and these particular labels. As I said the other week, Emu Bitter was a beer I actually quite enjoyed.
Well, interestingly enough, the man who brewed Emu Bitter, Ken Arrowsmith, is the head brewer at Northbridge Brewing Company, and is basically a local legend as far as now sort of the independent brewing segments. But I could not get Hahn Ice beer, so I got what was basically the competition, Carlton Cold, the ice filtered beer.
Yeah.
So I'm going to crack the VB. I may not get through all of them. I've got a little bit of a bailout. Actually, I've got a little.
Okay. Oh, mate, come on. Commit to the program, will you?
I thought, can I keep it on the down low?
You're feeling an element of guilt, weren't you?
I was like, I don't know if I. In fact, I actually thought about driving to another suburb to go to the bottle shop because I thought it's going to be a little bit embarrassing.
You've lowered your colours.
I have. I've been showing up as a thing. So Brian's right. Harnice was awful as soon as it got anywhere near warm. Well,
Susan Poley has suggested that we perhaps hum the TV commercial tune for each beer.
I'll just say, Shinno, we're now probably up about a dozen episodes, and I think one beer theme might actually ring a little bit true. They said you'd never make it. Remember that one? The Swan Black or whatever.
Oh, God. And they were right. They never made it.
No, they don't make it anymore. And Bondi went broke. And, yes, we lost the America's Cup. So that would have been, what, late 80s?
Yeah, absolutely. And that'd be quite enough for your singing too, by the way.
Yeah, well, but, okay, Susan, if you want to put in requests, perhaps if you could name the tunes. I mean, we're certainly Swan Premium. That was the one, Brian. The tunes. So we know you can get it talking, and you can get it auctioneering, and all the rest of it. So for VB, I can't think of many others. Can you?
No, I can't. I don't think there weren't too many. Wasn't a lot of advertising around. It was mainly some of the big. It was, VB. I remember. I can't even remember an Emu Export ad. I must have been very. I can't. Nothing comes to mind.
I don't think they needed to advertise it because it was kind of.
Yeah.
It was ubiquitous. Anyway, let's have a quick cheers.
Anyway,
here's on
cheers to you.
The Crownie in a brown bottle. Here's to you. I've gone the Vic Bitter. Let's.
You know what?
Oh, actually.
Are you okay?
I feel like I was 17 again. Honestly, that taste took me back 30 odd years, I reckon.
Yeah. Same with this. Actually, I'll tell you a little bit of a story around this. The reason
go on, we're all about the stories tonight. So
this is the beer of my earliest memory. I only say my earliest memory because I know I was drinking other stuff besides beer at high school parties. I don't really recall what it was. So this is my earliest memory, and it's sitting up at the cricket pavilion up at Cross Park, up at Roleystone.
Nice.
Yeah, playing in the seniors, and obviously probably going. I used to open the bat, so it would all depend as to how many runs I got, as to how many of these I was able to consume, particularly if we'd fielded first, and no risk of going back out. Even though that probably didn't stop us on many occasions, we'd go out with a few of these under our belts.
Yeah,
that was the thing we used to do back up in Hills cricket days. So that's my story there, mate. What about you? What's your story?
Well, the VB, just from, I do remember, and it stuck with me, someone saying, yeah, get VBs because no one else drinks them. And, you can put them in the esky at a party and you'll know if anyone, no one will touch them, which was actually fairly true. We used to drink it a lot. And I used to quite like bitter beers. That now. I can't remember the last time.
Do you think it's because your palates change naturally, or do you think because of the evolution of beer?
Well, I can tell you, mid-2000s, I got heartily sick of drinking beer. And at that stage, I mainly drank lagers, and I nearly brought a bottle of Heineken today, but that was probably a bit later in this journey. Although I can tell you, if anyone's looking for a sequel on this, I'm done. This will be it. We won't be doing. We're doing the late 80s and 90s. If anyone's expecting a 2000s episode, they can.
Actually, we missed an opportunity, didn't we? We should have had a dress up. Maybe we could have been Miami Vice. I don't know
what we were wearing in the 90s. God, trouble you to know that I had a denim jacket with a Batman patch on it. So nothing much has changed. I wish I could still fit into that jacket. Even if I still had it. So yeah, we used to drink a bit of that. But I think what happened around then is it just became what was, I suppose, what your mates were drinking. So I wouldn't.
Yeah, because you go and share a slab, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, exactly right. I mean, and even back then, buying a whole slab of beer on your own was fairly expensive. Like relative to
$30.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it cost $25-30, and it was a lot of money. Now, Simon's brought up a great thing. When I was about
actually Matilda Bay, that was a beer which I was looking
massive,
for today too. And Redback.
Yes, well, I can't drink wheat beer, so I never really liked Redback, but I loved Dog Bolter. And when I was about 17, they did up the pub in Midland on the corner there of
the Junction.
The Junction, yeah, exactly right, just near Centre Point there.
Yep.
And I'd been up in Carnarvon and moved back, and they'd done the pub up, and we went there, and they had this Dog Bolter, and it was fantastic. It was really.
No, it was. I used to drink that off the tap down at the Queen's.
Yes, and where Tracy and I had our wedding at the Kalamunda Hotel, one of the reasons for choosing the venue was that they had Dog Bolter on tap. So we consumed a bit of that night. So and that realistically was probably the beginning of WA's great sort of craft beer history. I'm not saying we invented it here, because that's certainly not the case. But that's
Brian's just mentioned here. He's put a question mark next to it. Was Dog Bolter the full strength version? Was it 8%? That would have been one of the highest alcohol contents back then, because that was, as we were saying before, right in the midst of the sort of mid-strength beer trend.
Well, yeah, I don't remember, but one of the things I do remember is if we had a big night on the lagers, export or the bitters, I would always come away the next day with horrible, horrible heartburn. And Dog Bolter was the first beer I ever had where I could have a massive session. I'd still be hungover, don't worry about that, but I wouldn't have the heartburn. So I was quite fond of that. But of course, wasn't as widely spread as it has been. And then it's funny because Matilda Bay now is a completely different sort of story. I mean, I know you can still get Redback. Can you still get Dog Bolter? Has anyone seen Dog Bolter recently?
I haven't. No.
You can still get Redback though, can't
you? Oh, well, I haven't seen Redback for quite some time. So, look, if anyone's seen it, I'd love to hear it.
Yes.
Yes.
And if anyone else has some of the favourites, I mean, Felix has just put up the Dog Bolter was the first beer he ever liked. And Brian's pointed out, they lowered the alcohol volume, which all of them have. I mean, I notice this Carlton Cold is only 3.5%, so that's clearly a lot lower than it probably would have been in the day. And this VB, Christ, fancy printing green on green.
You know what, Bish? I just had an idea.
Go on.
There's no reason, because we're so tech advanced on our show, that perhaps if anyone has any interesting input, is let me know. I can text my phone number to them, and or they can text me their phone number. I can give them a phone call, put it on speakerphone, and it'll be like having a guest. But they don't have to look at us. We don't have to look at them.
First time, long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah, what do you reckon?
Go on,
let's see. If anyone's brave enough.
If anyone is brave enough to come on the air,
give us a message. You can even shoot me a mobile number on Messenger if you like, personally. Obviously, we'll respect your privacy and not share that, but I'll give you a call.
We won't broadcast your mobile number, but
no, we definitely won't do that.
Someone would like to come on quickly and have a chat. That would be fantastic.
So, but mate, shall we move into what gets you goat?
Yes,
before we
we'll come back to the beer talk as it does.
Yes.
So, mate, what's
throughout the show
this week?
So, what gets your goat or what gets my goat? What gets my goat?
We'll go with yours if you like first.
Well, what gets my goat, mate, at the moment is we don't like talking about the C-bomb a lot, you know, but no. I think it's not directly about the C-bomb, but I think the whole thing around the physical distancing, one thing which is annoying me the most is I believe a lot of people have ceased wearing deodorant because they believe that physical distancing is the cure. But clearly it's not, because I can still smell them.
Do you feel that's the measure, that how close you are is like, if I can smell you in any way, shape or form, good or bad, close. You are too close.
You're way too close. Yeah. Step back.
I tend to think we've probably got very, very complacent here in the whole action. By here, I mean here in Western Australia, here in Perth, and that won't augur well if something does go wrong. But and fingers crossed that it doesn't, because we're going very well. You know, in things like the footy and all the rest of it. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, people are sort of coming a little bit too close, and things.
Well, I think that's exactly that. We're talking about complacency, but please don't become complacent with your personal hygiene, people. It's not good for anybody.
Yes, and Felix has pointed out something that's got at his goat: anti-maskers. Now,
well, actually,
yeah, and you're in retail, mate. So this is
well. I was going to say, Felix is raised something which I was going to bring up in Wank of the Week a little bit later, and obviously that
we do have nomination there, so perhaps we should hold our fire on.
We'll hold out on that because we've got a bit on that a little bit later. So, but mate, what gets your goat?
Well, look, this is a little bit of an extension of last week. Now, I know we've discussed this on the show in the past, and I think there's some validity to it, and in some cases maybe it's a little bit over the top, but I just think there is too much energy being wasted, and this is going to smack of a lack of self-awareness here, because I'm possibly as guilty as most. There is too much energy being wasted on really, really non-issue things to us on Facebook and social media in general. And the case in point, a certain cheese company has decided to change their name. Now, and I know we discussed the Colonial Brewing, and I sort of felt that was a bridge too far in terms of like mixed bag. So it did seem to be a lot, but the amount of time people waste in general on arguing about these little things where we should just turn around and, you know, like, it's no cost to me personally for that to change. It's no cost to most people. But if I said something now that offended you, right, and you said, just, you know, Clint, I don't really like it when you say that. Okay, no worries. I just won't say it. No problem. End of. And we all move on. But the hours and hours, and literally, I'm actually thinking about this. We must consume, and because all this argument is being done on social media, it's therefore being done on phones, computers, etc. And we are literally consuming a lot of energy, right? So aside from putting out all this garbage and arguing over, and before the cheese, it was the lollies, and I'm sure it was something before that. And you go, all this argument, nothing will change, right?
Yeah, look,
Look, I understand the progress, and I actually support the name change, right? But the whole getting into an argument, to me, it actually deflects from changing the things that really, really need to change.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, and I too am fully supportive of the name change due to the sensitivities around it.
Yeah.
I also believe, and I am, I suppose, a little bit sceptical in this regard. So besides that being one separate point of the sensitivities around the name change and then making the decision based off the back of that. But as much as that, as I believe there's a lot of focus around it due to their absolute understanding of the power of marketing.
Yeah.
You know, and brand recognition, whether
so you were
it's
saying
good, bad, or otherwise. How many people are going to remember the product now?
That their brand relaunch will
absolutely.
So they've now got
it's a self-generated brand relaunch where they're not going to have to invest millions of dollars in because people are doing it for them.
I must admit I hadn't quite seen it quite so cynically, but you're right. They've generated, I guess, enormous amount of publicity. I don't think the negative publicity is as bad because it's well.
I mean, don't get me wrong. As I said, it's the right decision. I believe it's the right decision. First and foremost, but I think also in the background, as a side to that, they understand and fully appreciate the work that's going on in terms of the power of Facebook.
Yes, and so you think they welcome the naysayers having
absolutely, because it generates conversation around the brand. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well. Okay, but what I think it detracts from, absolutely and totally, is, to me, real issues that ought to be discussed. But maybe that's that's where the people are.
You're spot on. If people were as impassioned about some real issues and invested the same amount of energy in real issues, imagine where we'd be.
So let's take, for example, all right, so that's about a race issue, right? Obviously. Now, we know that there are areas of disadvantage in race. It's an area you work in and all the rest of it and spend time in. Now, and that's great, but do you think, people engaging other people over this, do you think it kind of feeds into and I don't want to use the tags for people, if you like, because I really don't believe anyone sits firmly as a conservative or a progressive or a left or a right or whatever. Look, I think Felix has possibly nailed it. Do you think it's the people who want to maintain the status quo, kick up the fuss, so that the people who want to make the change almost get distracted from that? Because to me, it's like, let's have this whole great argument about, say, change Indigenous recognition in the Constitution, or spend more money on Indigenous health or whatever. But no, we're talking about the brand of a cheese.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think there's a few things at play here. There's the whole racial aspect. Let's put that aside for a moment. But there's a whole thing also where a lot of people in society are just generally resistant to change.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, like I say, it's just one of those things. I saw it this week, and believe me, I've got friends on Facebook who are on both sides of this, and I'm very reluctant to get into arguments with them, because then I become part of what I'm what I'm
Yeah.
trying to think. And I just think sometimes we just get bogged down in all of this.
Yes. Yeah.
When there are so many bigger things happening.
Yeah, no doubt.
I hadn't considered that that's kind of what the cheese manufacturer wants. And we've just given it to them, by the way,
Correct.
through our massive audience. So if you are a cheese manufacturer, you will be getting an invoice from us for your free publicity.
Well,
Dozen people.
Well, we've probably devoted too much to this particular thing than we probably should have done, and probably mirroring what's going on in Facebook land, I suppose.
That's it. There it is. I'm just wasting time on something that I just don't want to get involved with. Yes. So, yes.
So mate, let's move on to your next beer.
Just out of interest, right? Have you ever had that cheese?
Yes.
I can't recall the last time I had it. Now, it's not that we haven't bought it because of the name.
No,
but I can't remember the last time I had it.
Yeah, no, we regularly buy the cheese slices. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, and as I say, it's possible to not be offended but still understand why it wants to be changed, I guess. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's more so, at that stage, I suppose it wasn't all this uproar around it all. And I suppose it was just a case of going in, finding cheese. And if that cheese was a better price than another cheese or whatever it was, then you're going to buy that cheese. Not paying really any particular emphasis or focus on the brand.
Brand loyalty on cheese. No. I do have some types that I like very much.
I certainly didn't buy it for the name. Let's be quite clear.
It's just been pointed out to me from a member of our live audience that I don't do the shopping, which is actually true. I literally cannot remember the last time I set foot inside a supermarket. And long may that continue. I hate going to the shops. I know some people watching work at the shops. So
mate, how are you going with your beer?
It's actually not so bad. It is bringing back some memories. 4.9.
I've just finished my Carlton draft, so I'm going to jump into the Crownie because, as we said, there's a lot of conjecture, and I think you raised it on the show.
So did you get some overtime this week, Shinno, or did you get a little bonus?
Yes, mate. No, I actually tapped into some of my super.
We used to have the term, and I don't know whether it's widely known. You know how you have words that you think, I'm sure everyone knows the meaning of, but to be okay with dough, to not be broke was to be flush, right? And I still don't understand how flush relates to having a bit of cash. How is it? Now you've just come off the bottom.
Yes.
Whilst I
still had the taste of that in my mouth, there's a little difference, but it's not a lot of difference. I must say, there's some remarkable similarities between the two. I believe we need to do some further research on this. There may well be an element of truth.
I'd encourage our viewers to do the side by side and perhaps. So
you know what you're looking for. You've got your Carlton draft. And Bish, you might be able to explain a little bit further. So what's the conspiracy?
The beerspiracy, or the conspiracy, depending on which word you want to use, is that Crown Lager is essentially. Sorry, I keep seeing comments, so I'll come back to that. Thank you. Crown Lager is essentially Carlton Draft in a fancy bottle. Now, I have heard the theory that Crown Lager is also just Foster's in a fancy bottle, but I think the Carlton Draft thing is probably more of a thing. I will say this. Carlton Draft is probably one of the most reasonable of the mainstream beers. If I was shipwrecked on an island and only had Carlton Draft, I wouldn't, necessarily swim out to sea until I couldn't get back.
Yeah. You'd opt to drink this over the salt water that was available.
No, that's right. But you do. Okay. So I reckon Carlton Draft's all right. So at a pinch. That said, I was down the Empire on Sunday before the footy. They had $6 pints of Carlton Draft. I still ordered the Pirate Life Pale. So
look, mate, around the Crownies, we were going to tell a story about each one, and I think you're quite right. The Crownies, not really the type of thing you'd buy to sit in the fridge at home. It was a special occasion beer, and that occasion may be obviously even just wandering down to the pub. I remember going down to the Sunday sessions, and obviously down at the Aberdeen perhaps, or the Cot Hotel or the OBH, and prancing around with a Crownie in hand, being very proud of myself, and fond memories of that indeed. But icy cold, but absolutely, there was probably a massive price difference between those two.
I think, well, I can remember back in the late 90s, a carton of Crown probably cost about $40. So, whereas a Carlton Draft was about 30.
Yeah, correct.
So it's
very, very much a we say we don't have a class system in Australia, but we do.
No, it is. It's blokes
I think
drinking
back in the 80s and 90s, that was very much an indicator.
It was a way even you could stay within your, you weren't being yuppie and say drinking your next brew or your final choice. You weren't being that kind of wanker to go a foreign beer. You were still going local, but you were showing that you'd done good. You'd done good. And you were flush.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Please do.
I had a mate years ago. I've had a few mates since, mind you, but I had this particular mate years ago, and we caught him out one day. He bought a Crownie, but then he spent the rest of the afternoon buying middies of cheap beer, pouring it into his Crownie.
That proves
what a pretentious wanker.
That's simple. That's marketing, mate. That's marketing. He's said to everyone in the bar, mate, I know my stuff.
Yeah.
I know.
I will not mention his name on here. It's not anyone we know, mind you. So it's no one known to the show. I'll be clear with that. But
that is absolute.
And do you think he ever heard the end of that?
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go. Well, no names. Go on.
Adam Drake Brockman.
Oh really? Now I've got to tell you, I don't know him. So, but. Right. I've heard that surname before, but the double-barreled surname says that just reeks of that kind of behaviour. I'm sorry to all those people with double-barreled surnames, but I'm sorry. Yeah, no. Case closed, Connor.
He deserves it. Name and shame. Look. Susie's just sent through. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play this. Export Swan Lager. It looks like the ad from YouTube.
Oh, here we go. All right. See if we can get the sound up. Yeah, beautiful. They said you never make it. That's just like I was singing earlier. I'm sorry, Mr. Williams. It won't happen in your life. They said you never make it. The island's too remote. Keith, how did you take it when your dream went up in smoke? They said you'd never make it, but you finally came to. I think we've heard enough,
The
sound is terrible.
Thanks, Susie.
No, I appreciate that. I really should work out how to how to
Yeah,
breathe.
you're getting a bit teary, mate. Your glasses look like they missed.
Mate, I did. They were quite motivational ads, weren't they? You know, no, that was fantastic. Well, I don't think that sounded any different to my singing. So,
well, okay.
So
we'll leave. Everyone's entitled their opinion.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We know the difference between opinion and facts. But Susie, massive contributor tonight. Flush. Spend money like it's going down the toilet. I never thought of that. You're a bit flush. Yes, that's probably it. And Brian's said he spotted some crownies in the wild last week at the post hockey drinks. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, but
he did send through a photo, and I think he was having a Cooper's.
Was he? Okay.
And the rest of the crew were having a Crownie. So why didn't you go the Crownie, Brian? I can't understand.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I've opened my Carlton Cold.
Ah, good, mate. How are you finding that? Have you had a sip yet?
Saving it, so let's just. As bad as I remember it.
So you're not disappointed?
Not at all. Yeah, what can I say? Tilted below.
You don't need to say anything. Your face says it all.
But I have to tell you, I loved.
What did you love, mate?
I loved Hahn Ice at the time. I used to drink that till the cows came home. Really, I thought it was fantastic. But well, things change. Do you remember they brought out a version of Carlton Cold that had a shot of vodka in it with a red label? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I can't remember what it was called.
I do remember that.
Horrible.
Yeah. Hey, look, mate. Your mate Peter Hardy.
Who must come on the show. I mean, I've asked him time and again, and it's past time.
We'll only ask so often, and then we'll demand.
Yes, that's right.
We'll demand he comes on the show.
My ambush up at his house.
Peter's got. Sad to say, I was paid $50 in the early '90s by a marketing company to taste beers. Well, that's a good job to have, Peter. The end product was Carlton Mid. My apologies for recommending a shit beer. And I bet you haven't had a full night of sleep since, Peter. I can imagine it's been on your mind. So thanks for sharing.
I have a terrible Carlton Mid story, if you'll permit me.
Yep.
So this goes later into the late, well, it was the early 2000s because it was related to Abby's birthday party. So by that stage, I was a little flush and moved past the Crownies. And of course, the thing to drink was Heineken, right? Loved Heineken. And still, I have to say, would that not be the most inoffensive, easy to drink beer in the world?
Heineken?
Yep.
It's been a long time since I've had one, to be honest.
I reckon it's probably been 3 or 4 weeks.
Since you've had one?
Oh, yeah. No, well, my good mate over the road, Nick, still drinks Heineken. And so you pop over to his place and if you're offered a beer, you're getting a Heineken.
You'll get a Heineken, yeah. Which is fine, isn't it?
I have zero issue with. I find it, it's not necessarily my go-to. I did think about buying it for tonight, but... I
mean, I think at the end of the day, it's a comfort beer, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
We get hung up a bit on the craft beers and all that type of thing. I think it's nice to have a stable of comfort beers where you think, this is nice.
It's an easy drinking beer. In any case, I was drinking Heinekens and we had a first birthday party for Abby and some people came along. That's fine. Thought I'll buy some beers.
Hey, hang on, mate, for a moment. I just noticed Coach is watching, so be careful what you say.
Coach knows I like a drink, so no worries. G'day, Coach. And I am tapering, Coach. I'm on the 3.5%, and this has been filtered through ice, so it's like rehydration. Anyways, So we're having this party. Anyway, the dads from Tracy's mother's group, you know how when your kids first have kids, there's a mother's group and they get together and chat, and that's great. A little play group for the kids. Yes. And so the dads all used to drink Carlton Mid, like bandits. Turn up, got a 6-pack of Carlton Mid. Yeah, right. Go anywhere, Carlton Mid. Go to their house, want a Carlton Mid, right? So I have thought, well, they drink Carlton Mid, so I'll get a box of Carlton Mid, and I'll get myself and my mate Macca and a few others who I know are coming, Heineken. All of a sudden, these blokes are Heineken drinkers, right? Now, so basically, Heineken. Every time I see them, got a Heineken. Beautiful. It took me months to get rid of that Carlton Mid. I even had people coming around to my house looking in my beer fridge and saying, "What have you got this shit in here for?" In the end, I put it in a plastic shopping bag and I took it up to one of these blokes' houses and I said, "Here you go, here's a dozen cans." It took forever to get rid of it. So the moral of the story is you only know what somebody likes once you're paying for it sometimes. So that's my Carlton Mid story. Fortunately to say, I haven't had to drink it too often. But, now, there was an ad. What was that? Stay just a little bit longer.
Oh, yes.
The weather's turned terrible up here, apparently. Oh, God. That was the Carlton Mid ad. So
that's it. I remember that one.
But I have to say, the Carlton Cold / ice beer thing, not really.
Oh, good, mate.
Not really good.
Look, mate, we'll move right along. Have you got a nomination for Wanker of the Week?
Well, only what Camo sent through. So I hope Camo gets to see this. He sent through 2, I think, didn't he? Now, one of them was Bunnings Mask Lady.
Yep.
And I'm going to expand that a little and just say anybody who thinks that somehow their freedoms are being impinged by having to wear a mask, which just strikes me as really selfish. So Bunnings Mask Lady was Camo's nomination, and I don't know. Did you get the other one?
Look, well, I didn't, but I'll elaborate on Camo's because mine's along the same sort of vein as his. So the woman behind the anti-masker rule book. I don't know if you know, there's an anti-masker rule book that they've actually been sharing around Melbourne. And they've been getting together in these halls and things like that, and trying to discuss ways of bringing down all those that are wearing masks. But let me just read this out quickly. That the woman behind the document "Anti-Maskers Show Police When Arrested" is a religious conspiracy theorist who mocks Australians as sheep and dead, so sheep and dead, and tags those who wear masks as being muzzled. The Melbourne woman Bernadette Casa, yes, we're going to call your name out, Bernadette, invented the so-called COVID stop checklist, which at least 4 women flouting Melbourne's mask laws appear to have used when stopped by police. The checklist claims to contain legal justifications to allow people to avoid coronavirus checks, which Cassar calls unlawful police stops. Cassar, who appears to be a kitchen designer with a civil engineering degree, has proudly posted videos on Facebook page of people flouting the laws.
A civil engineering degree. Now, I realise that being good at one thing doesn't make you necessarily good at another. Although believing you are good at everything because you are good at one thing is apparently called the Dunning-Kruger effect. However, I would expect engineers, in my experience, like to understand and they like to look at the data and interpret the data. what bit of the data coming through that says people are getting sick and dying
is she
can
misinterpreting?
you not interpret? That's the bit where you go, come on, lady.
Yeah. What's your argument based on? What's the basis of the argument? We'd love to hear it.
Yes. But that does bring us, I suppose, to conspiracy theories. So we'll go with the anti-maskers, I think, as wanker of the week. I think that's a hands-down winner. Now, I don't have any new conspiracy theories, and I just want to highlight to people. I've
got a new one, but you keep going, but I'll bring mine up shortly.
No, I'll hear yours, and then I'll just tell you what I've been sort of thinking about in this space this week. So carry on.
Well, I don't know whether this is a new one or not, but it's one that I've only recently stumbled on. And look, there might be some merit to it, that Finland doesn't exist. Have you heard that?
I've heard that Australia doesn't exist.
Well, look, but let me elaborate. So the nation of Finland is actually part of the Baltic Sea. And people who claim to live there are really from eastern Sweden, western Russia, or northern Estonia. According to a theory born on Reddit in 2016, very reputable, obviously, what began as a joke quickly gained traction online, spawning numerous subreddits and websites explaining why Russia and Japan made up the fictional country in 1918. The notion goes that the two nations created Finland so that Japan could fish the sea that truly exists there without any environmental complaints or repercussions. The fish that they caught are then shipped via the Trans-Siberian Railway from the eastern Russian coast to Japan under the disguise of Nokia products.
Nokia products. So Nokia products have been around since 1918, have they?
Well, maybe under the guise of fish.
Fish. Sounds fishy to me, Shinno. Do you see what I did there?
Let's put it this way. Have you ever met anyone from Finland?
I've never met her, but isn't Björk?
No, well, you haven't, have you?
It's from Iceland, I should say.
No, and I've not met anyone from Finland. And I dare say there's not too many people from too many places, real places that I have not met from around the world. So I think there might be an element of truth to this, Bish.
Well, what is the population?
You've not met anyone from Finland. I've not met anyone from Finland. I'd challenge anybody on here to tell us they've met somebody from Finland.
All right. Well, we'll put that out to the audience. What I wanted to talk about on the conspiracy theory front this week, and a whole country not existing. So that's Australia and Finland that doesn't exist. Far out. How are we going there?
So where are we currently?
Australia. Well, no, exactly right. We don't exist, mate. That's the clashing ones are always fantastic. So one of the I think people might get the impression from my love of hearing new conspiracy theories that I'm some form of believer in them. And I want to assure people that I'm absolutely not. What I am fascinated with is how they emerge, why they become something, and why people buy into them. And that's my thing. But I'm guided by a bit of a quote I heard, and I want to say it was Benjamin Franklin, but it really doesn't matter because we all know a lot.
Look, if you want to say it's Benjamin Franklin, just say it's Benjamin Franklin.
Well, we all know that this is it. If it wasn't him, it was somebody, some dead American president said, for three men to keep a secret, it is better if two of them are dead. Right? Now, the simple extrapolation of that is eventually the truth will come out because as humans, we just cannot keep our mouths shut. And the more people a conspiracy involves, the higher the likelihood that it will have come out and unravelled. And so that's the starting point where I go, most of it can't come out or will come out eventually if there's anything in it.
Mm.
But secondly, I'm really fascinated as to why people even want to believe that, why people have this massive distrust in information. Now, I know we don't have a generally high level of trust in leadership, in politicians anymore than perhaps people did in previous generations, or not. But I'm fascinated to know why it's even a thing, that why these conspiracy theories take hold and why people believe in them. Because, excuse me, I just can't understand why people get any traction. Do you have any ideas, Shinno? But that's
look,
fascinates me.
I think it's imagination's running wild, really, as it is. But people feel as though, and obviously it's quite fearful when you're led to believe that these people actually believe what they're saying. That's one thing altogether. But I would assume that a large percentage of them, people know that people are fully aware they're taking the piss and trying to lead people up the garden path. I would at least be hoping that's the case.
I would suspect in some cases, and I don't necessarily believe in prophets, as in people who can tell the future, but I do believe in prophets, as in if somebody can profit from telling you something or leading you up the garden path, then they certainly will. So I can see where our good mate Pete Evans telling people that he can heal them with a bloody fancy light. Now, what I'm interested in, and I don't know if you can ever find out, is whether these people believe it or not as they take people up the garden path. What I'm concerned with is also in these, particularly the people who provide the conspiracy theories in the health space, is, and this is the big concern, if they prevent people getting treatment that would have otherwise led them to a better life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that there should be legislation protecting people from that type of carry on.
Yes, and there is, but it often, I guess, occurs.
It's a little bit hard to police at times, isn't it?
Well, often the horse is bolted. I mean, there was a famous case. Do you remember Dr. Peter Dingle? He was a bit of a alternative remedy guy. Used to be on the radio here in Perth, and his first wife died a horrible death from cancer.
I remember that because he refused to get a treatment.
He refused to go down,
conventional medicine, and
took her on an alternative medicine factor, and was later charged with her.
Yes, I do recall that.
So, and that's the concern. If people turn around and go, "Well, I'm going to go and try that," and people say, "Well, what's the harm?" Well, the harm is if you don't.
Look, I think you're spot on, Bish. It leaves those vulnerable in our society to coming undone.
Well, and when you are ill, I think you are vulnerable because, particularly if you feel that you're not getting better, etc. So that's the thing. I'm not a crusader against conspiracy theorists, but I do wonder how they do take hold, and I do wonder if proponents actually rigidly believe, in which case it's probably like a religion thing. But anyway,
I'll just call it. We got Nigel Hunter. Nigel's on the show.
Nigel from Kalgoorlie.
Nigel from Kalgoorlie. We all know Nigel from Kalgoorlie. So g'day, Nigel. Hopefully you're enjoying a beer and the kids aren't running amok, and Alison's cooked you your favourite dinner tonight, whatever that may be.
Oh.
So I went around to Nigel's at the hundreds of it, very very gracious hosts, and I went around there with Simon on occasion. Enjoyed a very lovely dinner, sitting around outside having a couple of beers and enjoying a hot Sunday afternoon in Kalgoorlie. So some wonderful memories.
Looking forward to that warm weather again. So
Bish, shall we go on to, even though we're not probably going to drink our third beer, what's your third beer?
Well, I can tell you that's as far as the Carlton Cold is getting. I've abandoned is the term. Well, I hate to say it, my third beer is Bao Bao, but only because I could not get what I wanted as my third beer, and that is Guinness.
So essentially, you're telling me you cracked the shits, and you threw your hands up in the air, and you thought, "Nah, I've had enough of this. I'm going to grab a craft beer."
No. Well, what I was trying to do was maintain what dwindling credibility I had at the bottle shop after putting a can of Vic Bitter and Carlton Cold on the counter. I thought if I chuck this 4-pack of Bao Bao on the counter, I'll be restoring some of my thing. But no, the Guinness was sold out now, and I think I think you would remember, and the excitement.
So sorry, mate, I'm just going to call you out on that. That's tantamount to me to ordering a rum with a Diet Coke, or to ordering, a double cheeseburger and salty fries, and then ordering a side salad. You can't go with your 2 heritage beers and then finally try and redeem yourself with a craft beer. I mean, that's not on.
Oh, I've done it.
Quite clearly you have.
What are you going to do?
Not much from here.
Exactly. I'm sorry. But I was going to tell you about Guinness, right?
Okay.
Because you remember the excitement of the first time you saw the cans with the widgets and being able to pour a proper pint of Guinness.
Yeah, felt like a professional, didn't you?
Oh, mate, and it always came out so well. And you
felt like you were behind the bar.
I've got a couple of really good Guinness stories here. So how are we going for time?
We're not too far. Actually, we've got about 2 minutes, mate.
All right. Well, I'll be quick on. I'll be quick on all 14 of these stories, right? So you must remember the excitement of the first pour, but everyone used to tell me, we were lucky enough to go to Ireland in 2000 for a wedding. And so this leads to a couple of stories, I suppose. Everyone said to me, the Guinness tastes different in Ireland. And I just assumed it was that whole thing of, when you're on holidays, the beer tastes better, which is why people drink Bintang, all the rest. It's better locational beer. And that, no, I'm not even going to suggest that. Maybe we drink a beer that was better on location. No, we're done. We're back on good tasting beers next week. So I went to Ireland, and I don't know if it tasted different, but we were drinking pints and pints of Guinness because even with the exchange rate, it was so cheap to drink over there that we drank a stack of it. Had a great time. 3 weeks touring around Ireland, went to a wedding. Irish weddings are fantastic. That's great. Come back because the gent who got married, Steve Cartmore, a mate of mine, I know he's not watching, and his then wife, who's no longer, had a celebration back at the Hurlingham Hotel. You remember the Hurlingham up in South Perth there?
I do, in South Perth, yeah, I remember that.
So we've come back to that, and so we've been in Ireland, had plenty of celebrations and drinks there, and we've come back. And later in the night, we're all, again, drinking Guinness on tap because we've gotten quite good at it by then. And later in the night, because the bar staff have disappeared, we get round behind the bar and have a bit of a crack at pouring our own Guinness, because we're in this private function room upstairs. And we think this is all a lark until the venue manager turns up and wants to charge us for this shit pour that we've... And we're like, we're not paid for that. It's terrible. He's like, you've just been pumping all these Guinness through. So I can't remember where it all sort of rounded out.
You probably shot through.
Oh, well, I think it was shutting up time soon after that.
We're out of here. Nothing more to discuss.
We were all just having a crack at, trying to get the head right. Yeah. Maybe, trying to get the shamrock in it and what have you, but wasn't to be. Wasn't to be. So,
hence that never became a career.
No, I don't think I can pour Guinness, but fantastic beer. Still one of the ones I drank in the 90s and noughties that I would still happily drink today.
Absolutely.
So look, that's one of my many Guinness stories that you probably don't need to hear the other 14.
Oh, well, there'll be another time.
There will always be another time to talk Guinness.
And there'll always be another time. There'll always be another beer.
So now, are we going to rate our beers, or are we just going to accept that there's a reason that we no longer drink them?
I don't believe we need to rate these ones.
I think if anyone at this stage doesn't know how...
Because you know why I say that? Because I believe the whole idea of rating our beers is maybe to give anyone who might be watching or looking on the page, maybe, they might encourage them to go and give it a try. Or
I'm not encouraging that.
It might not be for them.
You've still got a third beer. So let's talk about that, because this is a particular type of... Go on.
Well, I've got the Miller's Genuine Draft there. So that was yet again probably, that was an imported beer, deemed to be like an American beer. It was advertised as an American beer, so it felt quite exotic, I suppose, at the time, up there with Budweiser and things like that.
Yep.
But it was probably almost deemed a sort of a craft beer. But the funny thing being, I've been to the States and it certainly doesn't seem to be that over there. Like many exports, the whole, I suppose, the way that they market a product is quite different from its original state of or country of origin. So, which is an interesting topic in itself. But,
they do drink a bit of Bud, though, don't they?
They do drink a bit of Bud, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And they do drink a bit of Miller's, but it certainly wasn't deemed to be a sort of a I don't know. What am I looking for? Because it was always sitting alongside the Crown, maybe just below the Crownie, Yep. But certainly over there, that's not the case. But I'm not going to be cracking open that one now. But that was always quite a refreshing hot summer beer. I remember that. The case.
The good thing about the American beers, and they're really easy drinking because they're fairly low in alcohol.
Yeah. And
they're quite unoffensive.
They are, yeah.
You remember going out a year or two back with the crew from work, and we ended up at the Shoe Bar in the what's the name of the place? The Yagan Square there, and they had $10 pints of Bud on. So all right, well, we'll drink that, and it is kind of one of those all day drinkers.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, as you said, that's exactly what the Miller's was. You'd sit on that for a session beer.
Session drink. I love the fact that they call it Miller's Genuine Draft, as if there were people running around producing knockoff Millers.
Non-genuine Millers.
Non-genuine Millers, yes. You'd buy it off a bloke at the markets for...
Yes.
For
with a replica label.
Yeah, exactly. That just didn't look quite right. No, a bit like your bar.
Didn't feel right when you held the glass.
Yes. It was Miller, but it was missing an L. It was Myler.
Yes, exactly.
Myler.
Yeah.
Except
and rather,
substitute.
Yes. No, exactly. All right.
Well, we've hit our time allocated.
I think we will wind things up, shall we? And, I would like to say it's been a pleasure, but certainly your company has been a pleasure, but I can't really say the beers have been.
No, I have to say.
But
there'll be something that'll be filtered below the sink very soon rather than below zero.
We vow to get back on track next week.
I think so. We will be drinking. Normal transmission or abnormal transmission will resume next week. So now, upcoming guests, we're looking for a few guests, and
put your hand up if you want to come on. Let us know.
But what I would like to do in the coming weeks, if not next week, now that we are literally halfway through the home and away football seasons, so it's time, I think, to talk footy. Yeah. You've got a lot of good stories to talk about with your boy.
Look, I think at the beginning of our episodes kicking off some months ago, have you asked me if I wanted to talk about football, being a Carlton supporter, I would have been quite reluctant. But I think I'm more than happy to spend many hours talking about football at the moment because I think the Blues are playing as good a football as they've played in quite some time.
I agree. As St Kilda, so there's been a couple of surprise packets this year. So I think next year we'll work a little bit of footy into the conversation, and just in terms of maybe what a different season it is, and maybe we'll put ourselves on the line and lay out a few predictions as to where we think what might go. Now I have to tell you, every prediction I have made about anything this year has turned out to be wrong. I even got the time wrong 5 minutes in advance. So don't trust any of my predictions. Don't don't bet on them, but that'll be fine. Mate, it's been a pleasure.
Has been indeed, mate.
Thank you to everyone who has joined us. And thanks for all your comments and input, people. And I'm off to go and just think about my life choices, drinking something like Carlton Cold. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, go and take stock, mate, and we'll catch you next Tuesday.
We'll see you then. Cheers.
Okay, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye.